Good afternoon, YouTube.
Good afternoon.
All right, our good, precious friends and family, we thank you for tuning in to our videos. I'm Quentin Avery.
And I'm Dr. Burks.
And your dynamic duo is coming to you again with another YouTube great Bible lesson. We hope that you are going to be blessed from this. This series right here required a part 4. We are still in the subject of tithes. We ended part 3 off pretty good, but we had a little bit more to give to you. So just a quick summary. The Israelites and the Levitical priesthood, God commanded Moses to count the Israelites. There was over 600,000 people, but he didn't count the Levites. And he separated the Levites. God said that the Levites were going to be mine, and they're going to be responsible for putting the tabernacle together and taking the tabernacle down and moving it whenever the Spirit of the Lord would move. And they didn't have an inheritance or an allotment, so the Israelites had to bring their crops and their fruits and cattle and whatever else that they had, a tenth of what they had, and they gave that to the Levitical priesthood, so that was called paying tithes. And it was never money.
Never.
They brought those things to the Levitical priesthood because they didn't have property and land and food and places to plant seeds and grow crops. They had a different job to do, and God ordered them to do a different job.
Correct.
Okay, so now we're under the priesthood and order of Aaron. Later on, we go into Jeremiah 31 and 31, where God says, I will... there's an old covenant and a new covenant where the Levitical priesthood is not going to have to offer sacrifices year after year for the ignorance and for the sins committed out of ignorance. Now, as the schoolmaster, or like Paul writes in Galatians, the schoolmaster that teaches you and brings you to Christ, or like Moses wrote, I'll raise up a prophet from among you.
Right.
If you don't listen to him, you'll be cut off. So now the tithe that was taking place in the Old Testament now and today, or in the New Covenant, Christ only had to go into the most holy place, which was a copy of the true one. He went into heaven, and he went and sat at the right hand of the Father, and he made atonement once and for all. So now the annual reminder of sin, Christ's sacrifice and his death brought everlasting righteousness and put an end to wickedness, put an end to sin.
Right.
And so therefore we have no need for continuous sacrifices. And so now we are dealing with the issue, or not the issue, but the debate and the conversation of tithes, whether or not you should pay them. And if you want to pay them, you're right. And if you don't want to pay them, you're right. But if you don't pay them, no one should be able to fool you and tell you that you are under a curse. If you believe in Christ and you believe that Christ redeemed us from a curse, then you shouldn't believe that if you don't pay, then you are cursed. If you don't pay, that is not the reason why you have a flat tire.
Right.
Or your engine breaks down, or your transmission breaks down. It's not because you didn't pay tithes, it's just because you got a bad transmission.
Right.
So that's what we want you to know, that if you do it, you're right, and if you don't do it, you're still right. But if you do it out of ignorance, because you don't know, then you're double wrong, because you're not studying the truth.
Correct.
All right. What scripture you wanted us to go to? Or
I would like us to...
You got something?
Sure, I always have something. It's not up my sleeve. Presto. The second chapter of Corinthians. Chapter 3. Now, listen to Dr. Burks. Look. If you don't agree with me, or you agree with me, and you want to further this conversation, call me. I'm not afraid to answer questions or debate or rightly dividing the word of truth. Call me. Area code 619-674-0135. I would love to entertain your thoughts. I'm not going to wrestle with your thoughts, because Jacob wrestled with the angel, and his name was changed from Jacob to Israel. So my mind can be changed if you have the truth. But in 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, starting at verse 1. What does it say, son?
That's not the first time he gave his phone number out, and it still haven't rung yet. So
No. Every time it rings, it's a bill collector, and they got the wrong number.
And he wants you to pay tithes.
Look, I don't mind you paying. Look, if you want to give 10% of your earnings to whoever, fine with me. But when I was coming up through the Church of God in Christ, yes, I did say that. The Church of God in Christ in 1974, they always went to the scripture Malachi, and they want to put the guilt trip on you. If you don't pay tithes, you curse with a curse. And I found out later that they was lying. Thou shalt not lie, one of the 10 commandments. In Galatians 3:13, Jesus came to take us from the curse of the law and became a curse for us all. But we're going to go to 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, starting at verse 1. Listen to it.
Are we beginning to commend ourselves again?
Uh-huh.
Or do we need, like some people, letters of recommendation to you or from you? You yourself are our letters, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. Such confidence we have through Christ before God. Not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. He has made us competent as ministers of the new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. Now, if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in letters on stone, came with glory, so that the Israelites could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of his glory, transitory though it was, will not the ministry of the Spirit be even more glorious? If the ministry that brought condemnation was glorious, how much more glorious is the ministry that brings righteousness? For what was glorious has no glory now in comparison with the surpassing glory. And if what was transitory came with glory, how much more greater is the glory of that which lasts? Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold. We are not like Moses, who will wear a veil over his face to prevent the Israelites from seeing the end of what was passing away. But their minds were made dull, for to this day the same veil remains when the old covenant is read. It has not been removed, because only in Christ is it taken away. Even to this day, when Moses is read, a veil covers their hearts. But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now, the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image, with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit.
Now, I want you to break down everything you read. I want you to summarize, son. Because, see, when I met this young man, he said, Dr. Burks, I would like to know something about the Bible. You know, I told him, son, you came to the right person. And he told me a couple of days ago, he said, what I know now, I couldn't say nothing about what in 2 or 3 years ago, he couldn't talk like he talks now. And I'm proud of him because he calls me to think and to reason. When I get through talking to him, I have to go back and look again. And that's because he provoked me to think and to reason. He said, the old Chinese proverb says, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. Now, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. Because he makes me to think, and the reason, he brings the best out of me. He brings the best out in me. He don't have to beat it out of me. He gonna get it out of me. Because see, he just don't know. When he comes with something, I go back and look and say, he's right or he's wrong. Come on with it. What you think about 2 Corinthians chapter 3, on and on and on?
Well, I read the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Just for the listening audience, I read the whole thing, and the part that stands out the most to me is the part where he's talking about Moses,
Uh-huh.
where it says, we are not like Moses, who would put a veil over his face to prevent the Israelites from seeing the end of what was passing away.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read the end of what was passing away, the law of Moses and the era and time that they were in, they didn't want that to end. And when Jesus came
Mm-hmm.
and came down on the Jewish leaders,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't want that to end.
Right.
And when they said, "Hey, you circumcised a boy on the Sabbath day, and you mad at me for healing the whole body," because they didn't want that to end.
Right.
And so that's why they had to get rid of him
Uh-huh.
or kill him, because in 14, but their minds were made dull until this day. The same veil remains when they read the Old Covenant, when the Old Covenant is read.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jesus began to read the Old Covenant in the second chapter of Luke, no, not the second chapter of Luke, when he read 4:18, Luke 4:18. And
Right.
when he began to read the Old Testament scriptures,
When he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day.
yeah,
Okay.
when he read it,
Right.
the veil remained over their face.
Right.
Even when he said, "Today in your hearing, this scripture has been fulfilled," they ran him
Fulfilled.
out.
They ran him out. They tried to kill him.
The veil remained.
Seven Adventists. They were Seven Adventist people.
They didn't want to hear that.
They didn't want to hear
They
it.
didn't want to know.
Religious people don't want to hear. You don't have to pay tithes now because they so comfortable in paying tithes because they can afford it. Everybody can't afford if you want a fixed income. Go ahead, son.
Yeah. So when anyone turns to the Lord, the veil has been taken away, because in 4:18, I've come to set the captive free.
Right.
So the letter kills, but the spirit gives life.
You didn't make that up, did you?
No, it's in there.
Oh, it's in there. Okay.
Yeah,
You didn't write? Did you write the Bible?
No, I didn't.
Neither
write
did
that.
I.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No. So he's transitory though it was passing away. It's just here for a short period of time. It was temporary.
Right.
So the tablets of stone, you take it, and transitory though it was, and glorious though it was,
What's the tablets that are written on stone?
those are the 10 Commandment laws that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai.
So what is the written in ink?
Those are the laws of Moses.
In the book.
In the book, on the side of the ark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So in 2 Corinthians 3:2 it says written in our hearts.
2 Corinthians what?
2 Corinthians 3:2
Oh, okay.
written in our hearts.
Right.
That's not written on tablets of stone or ink in a book.
Yeah, well, right here is it doesn't mention the spiritual circumcision, but the physical circumcision is a reminder that the pulling back of the skin is the circumcision of the heart, or the flesh,
Right.
So it's fleshly desire.
Right.
And so he's saying it has to be written on your heart. It has to be something that you want to do.
Right.
Something unconsciously says, I would rather please God by living in the spirit than to please the world by living in the flesh.
Correct.
It has to be something that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, are we beginning to commend ourselves again? I mean, it's not something that we can do on our own. We have to do it through the Spirit.
Right.
Or do we need, like some people, letters of recommendation to you or from you? You yourselves are letters when you've written it on your heart.
Right.
And so he says not ink, but with the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. Then he goes on about the competence. Such confidence we have is through Christ before God. So it's not in ourselves. It's not something that we've done. It's the competence through Christ from that we get from God. And then he goes on to say that the letter, not the letter, but the spirit, for the letter kills, but the spirit gives life.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to Romans 8. There's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, because the spirit of the life has set you free from the law of sin and death. The law of sin and death is the letter that kills, and the spirit of life is the spirit that gives life. Now, the ministry that was engraved on stone brought death.
Right.
But it was still glorious.
Yeah, at that time.
Yeah. It's saying right here.
Right.
Yeah. It was still glorious. So it says the letter, it says, now if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in letters on stone, came with glory. It came with glory.
Now, can we say that you have a 2017 Mercedes Benz. You have a 2017 Mercedes Benz.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get you a 2019 or 2020 Mercedes Benz, wouldn't that be more glorious than
Yeah. Well,
because people gonna say Quentin stepped up his game.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. You got an old Mercedes Benz. Now you got a new Mercedes Benz. You got a 2020. You're still in 2019, but now you got a 2020. People gonna look at you like Quentin then stepped up his game.
Yeah. Now, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think a car is, because sometimes you can go, clean up the old one.
Right.
And then it's rejuvenated.
Right.
Sometimes,
But people look at it and say, Quentin, that's it's cleaned up.
That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
But listen to this part.
They call it detailing.
Yeah, detailing. But listen to this part.
Uh-huh.
In verse 10 it says, for what was glorious has no glory now.
Right.
Yeah, so it was glorious when it was 1950 something.
2017 or 2016 or 2015.
Yeah.
But now you got a 2020 or 2019.
So it's not glorious anymore.
No.
No.
Not to you or nobody else.
Yeah.
But if you clean the 20.
Now in comparison with the surpassing glory, and if what was transitory came with glory, how much greater is the glory of which lasts?
Right.
So the 2010 might got a Hemi.
Right.
You see?
Right.
Yeah, might got something better.
Right.
And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at something that's better, but we still want to keep the old because the old is good enough.
Yeah.
But we don't want what's better.
I got a 2017 Cadillac DTS.
Uh-huh.
People still wave at me and give me the high five.
Mm.
But if I get a 2019 or a 2020, I'm still the same person.
Yeah.
Are they waving at the car? Or giving the car high five? Or are they waving at the person that owns the car? The car does not make the person. The person should make the car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
But overall, what Paul says at the end is that he says that it's about transforming into his image. Because you have to be transformed into the image of God, which is in glory and perfection.
Right.
And the ink can't do that.
Right.
And the tablets of stone can't do that.
Right.
So transitory though it was a surpassing glory, and you have to move to the glory that surpasses that.
Right.
Which is the spirit.
So a bank robber.
So how we get that for tithes?
So a bank robber, he can drive a 2019 or a 2020, but he got his money deceitfully.
Oh, okay.
A pimp can ride a 2019 or a 2020, but he got his money deceitfully. But if you got your money honestly, because they know he's a bank robber.
Yeah.
They know he's a pimp. But when a person like you and I, knowing that we're trying to get people to do what's right, not being conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been doing ever since 1974.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Man, I feel great.
Like Dr. Burke said at the beginning, there was nobody on the whole earth that could answer my questions except him.
Right.
Without taking me down to Jerusalem and back and confusing me and making me give up and say, I don't even want to know.
Right.
And
but
that,
according to the scriptures, that you can see for yourself and rightly divide the word of truth, because I wasn't giving you no address. I was giving you address so you can go home and look at it.
Right.
If I promise you some bread and never deliver, you still gonna want the bread. But if I promise you bread and I deliver you bread, fresh bread, you say, oh man, can you keep giving me bread, fresh bread? Sure.
Okay. Well, hey, that's another video. Hope you learned a lot. Surpassing Glory. I'm Quentin Avery.
And I'm Dr. Burks.
We'll see you next time.